Everyone keeps talking about universal basic income like it's some inevitable solution. Automation is taking jobs, inequality is rising, AI is replacing workers, so the answer they say is simple, just give people money. Sounds compassionate, sounds modern, sounds inevitable, but I am here to say something that most people want. To admit universal basic income will never work. Not because people don't need help, but because the system it relies on is collapsing under its own contradictions. On paper, UBI looks straightforward: give every citizen a guaranteed income, no strings attached, enough to survive, and replace broken welfare systems. Supporters promise it will end poverty, reduce stress, and protect people from the forces of automation. But this idea ignores a fundamental reality. Money doesn't exist in isolation, it's part of an economic ecosystem, and if you inject cash without addressing supply, the system fights back. Prices will rise, rent will rise, food and energy will rise, inflation will rise. Landlords, corporations, and service providers know exactly how much extra money is entering the system, and they will adjust prices accordingly. The basic income that is supposed to help people survive becomes quickly swallowed by the rising cost of living, and eventually it won't even cover necessities. Supporters often argue that the rich will fund UBI, that higher taxes on large corporations and wealthy individuals will cover the cost. That's a fantasy. The wealthy and the big corporations aren't lining up to pay more. They are doing the opposite, lobbying governments, moving capital offshore, automating labor, reducing tax exposure, and weakening the role of the state. Expecting them to fund a program that cuts into their profits is like expecting a shark to vote for veganism. UBI assumes a willingness to redistribute wealth that simply doesn't exist in today's political economy. Governments, meanwhile, are not in a position to sustain it. National debts are exploding, trust in institutions is collapsing, and welfare systems are already under pressure. UBI requires a massive state apparatus, stable currency, and long-term political commitment. What we have instead is short-term politics, corporate capture, currency devaluation, and governments terrified of capital flight. The system needed for UBI no longer exists. The state is weaker, not stronger, and the pressures on it are increasing every year. If you look at history, promises like UBI never survive the realities of power and economics. When you try to implement large social programs without strong institutions and compliance from the wealthy, it either fails or gets watered down to the point of meaninglessness. The question isn't whether UBI could theoretically work. The question is whether it will survive in the world we actually live in, and the truth is, it won't. There will be no universal basic income, not at the scale that matters. The wealthy will not pay more taxes, corporations will continue reducing labor costs wherever they can, and governments will continue losing legitimacy and capacity. Meanwhile, millions of people will be left without the means to survive, and social cohesion will start to fray. UBI is not a solution. It's a comforting story meant to calm people while power and wealth continue to concentrate. It exists to give the illusion of progress while responsibility is quietly removed from the state. And when the illusion finally collapses, only those who can adapt, who have the skills, the networks, and the ability to provide value will survive. Waiting for a monthly check to save you is dangerous. History has shown us repeatedly that the system doesn't prioritize survival for everyone. The hard truth is that adaptation, resilience, and community will matter far more than any promised income. Universal basic income is a fantasy, a story we tell ourselves to feel safe while the real risks continue to grow. The time to prepare isn't when the money comes, but before the system fails.